There's so many things to say. First of all, let's get your reaction to yesterday's events where the Bowie County Clerk, Natalie Nichols, resigned her position.
Bittersweet. That's my feelings about the whole thing. When you get a court order, you have three options. You can either obey the order, or you can disobey it, and then you're really going to be in trouble with the law, or you can resign. And why she wouldn't choose to obey rather than resign, I will never figure out in my lifetime.
What about these allegations of this being a good old boy system? Because I heard that last night on the news. I've heard it several places about the good old boy system. Do you think that there is a good old boy system in place in Bowie County? And what is your reaction to those that say that kind of thing?
Well, if there is, it certainly didn't come into play here. We were looking for one thing. We needed a clerk of the court who would do her job. And we had to go to district court and get a visiting judge in to tell her what her job was when she serves as clerk of the court.
Sure.
And I think she made the mistake of carrying that near autonomy she's supposed to have as the county clerk. Okay. But I think she carried that over into her statutory duty to be the clerk of the court. And she just refused to obey our orders.
Yeah. How did this process start with the negotiations of paying off the attorney? And I shouldn't say paying off. I should say paying her court costs is a better way to put it, probably. And with that entire situation there, because this was not something that happened overnight, obviously.
Well, some of those negotiations are going on behind the scenes. December the 16th. When the representative of our bonding company getting ready to issue these $35 million of bond for the widening project, Highway 82 between New Boston and DeKalb, he came by to visit with me, and he said, if you don't have this clerk situation cleared up by February in the middle of this bond issuing thing, it's going to be disastrous.
So then this situation then could have affected the bond issue that was voted on by the people to widen Highway 82?
Well, see, what happened was her refusal to accept our amendment of our own minutes, okay, and writing across the bottom, I attest your signature, but I don't verify this document. All right? Yeah. Then she started doing that off and on with some of the orders of the court, that not just the minutes.
Sure.
Okay, and we had a $2 million resolution here recently that she basically invalidated the document by stamping on there a refusal to verify this is an accurate document representation of what we voted on in court. And then it got to where everything was that way, even to the point where when she wasn't there and her staff was there doing the minutes, they were ordered to put that stamp on there that the person that's serving as the clerk of the court will not verify this document.
Wow, and so that could have an effect, according to the bonding folks, on the Highway 82 widening project.
Well, it could cost us millions. We were looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars if this thing had continued in court and gone to the appellate court and the state Supreme Court and all as was threatened.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
And so, December the 16th, up until then, I wasn't willing to pay a penny of her attorney's fees unless a judge at the end of the trial in February ordered us to. That's what we were waiting on, is the judge would eventually determine who's going to pay whose attorney's fees and all.
Sure.
But when I found out it was jeopardizing this bond issue that will start up here the first week of January and need her signature, the clerk's signature, on a lot of documents, that's when I decided, okay, if we can settle this for tens of thousands, that's better than hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. You remember the district judge, the visiting district judge, ruled that the potential damage to the county was irreparable.
Wow. And that's what he was referring to, correct? Referring to the fact that without the documents being verified, without the documents being approved by the county clerk, then those documents would be in jeopardy of validation?
We had not yet brought that issue to the court. That's what we were going to do next.
I see.
Okay. But he was basing it on the minutes. See, the commissioner's court speaks through its minutes. We have to go back and redo 10 and a half months of minutes and the last 60 to 90 days of documents that came out as orders of the court.
Yeah. what is this eventually costing the taxpayers? Because do bonds, when people are bonded, do these bonds take care of this, some kind of insurance, or are the taxpayers on the hook for this money?
The taxpayers are on the hook, but what happened in September, I'm the chief budget officer. The Commissioner's Court has to approve the budget, which they did September the 26th. But the budget I brought to them, we took $60,000 out of the county clerk's budget from the previous year and set it under a line item called legal.
Oh, okay.
And so we set some money aside because we could see this coming and some other issues that might come up, and we might need that money. There's already $35,000 designated, so we've not exhausted that $60,000. We may have by the time we pay our attorney fees, but there's still it's money that was in the budget. Taxpayers having to pay for it, but again, it was that or hundreds of thousands or messing up millions of dollars of documents.
Yeah, but this was not an added expenditure necessarily at this point. Then it was already in the budget.
We're not going to have to come back and tax the people or have a budget amendment to increase the budget by this amount of money. We made provision for it back in September.
Okay, now, going forward here, what is the next step?
Okay. As of midnight Saturday, the 31st, when her resignation takes effect, then the chief deputy in the clerk's office becomes the acting county clerk until we pick a replacement.
Okay. Now, are you at liberty to talk about any of the possible names on the list? Because one gentleman got up and spoke in court yesterday about someone that could possibly have a criminal record as person on the list. There's also stories of some members of the former administration that they could possibly be put in that position right there.
There were so many qualified people on the list that Commissioner's Court, in meeting executive session, could not decide on one yesterday. And so what we'll do is we'll look for some resumes. I have not received one resume yet.
Okay.
We'll be looking at some resumes of some people who are seeking this position. So what will happen is we'll select a county clerk to serve in 2012, actually until the day we canvass the November election. When we canvass that election and the people have chosen who they want to replace Natalie Nichols for the last 2 years of her term, then actually that person will take office that day.
Oh, so they don't have to wait till January to do that.
They don't have to wait till December 31st and January the 1st to be sworn in.
I see.
Of
Okay.
2012, 2013. It will happen as soon as we canvass the vote.
Yeah, I think that's also another point that's being missed in all this is that we will have an election in 2012 for the county clerk's position, but then also we'll have to do it in 2014 again.
Yes, the election this next year will only be to serve out the last 2 years and 1.5 months of Natalie's term.
Yeah. How do you respond to the allegations of this was unfair, that this was something that was taking place and the minutes didn't mean that much, this was all a big deal about nothing, and we've wasted a lot of time and effort and the people's business just didn't get done during this whole time? You guys have been doing nothing but this one thing here. You've done nothing but fight this one battle the whole time. What do you say to that?
Well, 99% of all the interaction between Natalie Nichols and myself and her office and my office has taken place without this controversy affecting it at all. And the work of the courthouse has gone along very well, except in the one area where, starting in January, she said and announced to us, I don't have to supply the minutes to you. You don't have the authority to make any adjustments on them unless I make them.
Interesting. Well, certainly this chapter has closed, but a new chapter begins, I guess.
Yes, and that's the bittersweet. This has been a rough thing to go through this year, but we'll start 2012 clean slate in the relationship of the Commissioner's Court and the Clerk of the Court, and I'm looking forward to making great progress.
Excellent. Bowie County Judge Sterling Lacey, thank you, sir, for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Thank you.